Can you, I don't know if you're able to speak to, but if you can you talk about how TNP gets funding and how the whole funding process works to where there's going to be an expense of tearing down an abandoned building once it's determined how it's determined. I'd like a little clarity on that, because when I looked into it, I was still a little confused on how the whole process works. So if you give like a little bird's eye view, because you guys have been doing a fantastic job. I read in the paper, Trumbull County Land Bank was able to acquire, I don't know if it's you guys actually acquiring the money, but a good amount of money to continue this process. And other land banks in the state are actually looking to you guys and how the success that you are having. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not too complicated. Basically, we acquire that money on behalf of the land bank. So TNP is about a $500,000 budget per year. We've never torn down any property with that budget. We've never owned any property with that budget. TNP manages the county land bank through a contract. So about a third of our funding comes from a contract with the Trumbull County Land Bank to manage disposition. So contrast that with the $4 million that the land bank received for demolitions last year and then early this year through a couple different rounds of allocations. TNP is applying for those grant dollars on behalf of the land bank, and the money is allocated to the land bank to tear down land bank owned properties. So we're conducting the demolitions, we're writing the grants, we're bringing the money in, but the land bank is a separate entity with its own accounts, its own books, its own lawyer, its own board.
Oh boy, you got a lawyer.
Yeah. Lawyers got to get involved when you're getting.
So the $4 million that come from the state? Is that state, city, federal?
Yeah, so I'll take you from Warren back up with the $4 million. It was allocated to the Trumbull County Land Bank by the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, which is in Columbus, which is a statewide organization that historically has served to help foreclosure prevention. But this money was allocated to them from a federal level. It was part of the original hardest hit funds allocation, which was for the hardest hit states by the foreclosure crisis. And both Ohio and Michigan last year made cases that their portion of the hardest hit funding should be used, some of it should be used for demolition, because we have studies that show that demolition of the worst properties on decent streets is actually a form of foreclosure prevention, just as much as counseling towards foreclosure prevention. The idea being, if you're on the fence and you may or may not walk away from your property, being between two derelict vacant houses might be that final variable that makes you decide to walk away entirely. So both Ohio and Michigan have allocated portions of their hardest hit for demolition. So that's where that money comes from. It's actually federal dollars allocated by a statewide agency to the land bank, and then TNP is in charge of the management of that grant.